Hashem Yahweh Shah, Hashem Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone. Peace, blessed, the whole fillet. Um, got just a few articles here. I'm gonna try to get through them fairly quickly. It's only got about 15, maybe 20 minutes here. So let's go and get into it. It says red meat allergies from tick bites are on the rise. It fits conveniently into an agenda. All right, it says dairy and red meat allergies may now be the 10th most common food allergies in the U.S., according to CDC estimates. In case you haven't heard, alpha-gal syndrome is on the rise and is still largely unrecognized, which we went into an article about that alpha-gal. It says, what is this new syndrome? Who needs to avoid red meat and dairy? Might something else be going on here? Let's look a little deeper at how a simple tick bite can have a lifelong devastating effects, and not just from Lyme disease. What is alpha-gal syndrome? Alpha-gal syndrome begins with a bite from an infected tick or chigger. The tick or chigger bites some kind of mammal. The tick or chigger bites some kind of mammal and ingests its blood, which contains alpha-gal, a type of sugar molecule. If that tick or chigger goes on to bite a human, it can transmit some of the alpha-gal tainted blood to the human, which may then trigger an allergic reaction to red meat or dairy products. One of the stranger things about alpha-gal syndrome is the time in which it takes for symptoms to present themselves. It typically takes a few months after the tick bite for the person's antibodies to alpha-gal to build up, and then it is often several hours after a person eats meat that they have their allergic reaction. The time delay makes diagnosis really difficult because victims often feel like their allergic reactions appear out of nowhere before people know what to look for. An alpha-gal syndrome diagnosis took some sleuthing. All right. It says alpha-gal is something to be aware of, particularly since it can be triggered not only by meat and dairy, but also drugs containing mammal products and even carrageenan, whatever. It says an Irish moss used as a food thickener. It says if you got allergic reactions you can't explain, you'd ask your doctor about getting a blood test to rule this out. However, for those of us unfamiliar with all our allergies, this is not something to lose sleep over. So they say, it says, in fact, overdiagnosis of alpha-gal syndrome may be a bigger concern. Detailed studies have shown that about a third of the American population has antibodies to alpha-gal, which means they've already encountered it somewhere, and yet the overwhelming majority of us can eat red meat without ill effects. All right, so we could probably read more into this. Like I said, I probably would read more, but just for time's sake, just going to tap that article real quick. So, hey. How to remove a tick properly. All right, we get that title. It says red meat allergies from tick bites are on the rise. It fits conveniently into an agenda. All right, which we talked about. Like I said, we talked about this alpha-gal, the tick bites before. What was it? Mosquitoes. I think there was something that was dealing with rats or something like that. Just all kinds of little insect things going on. But everything is according to the Lord. All right, whether it be on the right hand side or the left hand side. So let's continue on. I didn't have this one, but let's hit it real quick. It says the public health red meat allergy bioengineering plot thickens. It says in a recently unearthed video of the College of Global Public Health Center for Bioethics at New York University, Director Matthew Lau, speaking at the 2016 World Science Festival, he openly advocates artificially inducing a red meat allergy in the entire human population, using an analog of the alpha-gal molecule, which we just talked about, found in the Lone Star tick that I have documented previously at Armageddon Pros. What a name. So as to fight climate change, which is all the roots, climate change. It says people eat too much meat, and if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say this steak is just too juicy. I can't do that. I'm one of those, by the way. So here's the thought. So it turns out that we know a lot about. We have these intolerances. For example, I have a milk intolerance, and some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. All right. There's videos here, but we're definitely not going to be able to get through all that in the videos. Let's see if I can play just a little bit of it real quick.
So I'm probably more on the more permissive side of this whole spectrum. I think that I agree with everybody here that in the near term, the research should go forward. I don't see much of a big problem with sort of synthesizing yeast, genomes and sort of or studying sort of aspects of the human genome. And so, but I leave it to the scientists to decide how quickly we're going to arrive at the end station, which is sort of the possibility of creating synthetic humans. And on that issue, bioethicists differ. So Greg's more on the side where people are worried. They think that this might be sort of over controlling of our human nature. I'm more on the side, and they're on the other side of the spectrum. There are people who think we should go forward. Anything goes. People should have the liberty to be able to, create whatever kind of human beings or even human animal chimera that they want. But there's actually a lot of opportunities for this to solve big world problems. So one thing is the climate change. And there, I'll just use, sort of climate change is a really big problem. We don't really know how to solve it. But it turns out that we can use human engineering to help us address climate change. So I'll give two examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish.
All right, I was gonna continue letting it play, but it's pretty much what we just read. So yeah, we'll let that be it with that article, so we can move on. Like I said, for time's sake, I wouldn't usually let it play. Probably because there was another video as well. I'll probably grab that one as well. Look, this face here. For time's sake, we're just gonna have to move on. Just grab our next article. All right, we have here, it says, population collapse good for the planet. WEF advisor Professor Sarah Harper explains, and WEF is short for World Economic Forum. All right, so it says, remember how depopulation was called a right-wing conspiracy theory? Things have changed, and population collapse, which can no longer be denied, is now good for us. That's what they say. The Telegraph picked the perfect messenger to communicate the new way we should think about population declines. A high-level WEF advisor tells us, which is right here, UK population collapse good for the planet as number of newborns hits 20-year low. Oxford professor Sarah Harper is a very important person. The Telegraph article listing her credentials forgot to mention that she serves on the Global Agenda Council on Aging Societies of the World Economic Forum. Let's see what else is down here. Population declines or population replacement. Let's see what it's talking about. Grab this video real quick. Hopefully it's short.
Well, the rot set in at Disney a long time ago, but it's never been clearer that this once supposedly family-friendly brand is something that you should keep your kids firmly away from. Disney has announced a new original series for Disney Plus called Pauline, in which an 18-year-old girl gets impregnated on a one-night stand, then catches feelings for the individual responsible. That individual being Satan himself. We're thrilled that Disney Plus loves this coming-of-age story as much as we do, and that we've now been able to begin filming with such an amazing cast and crew. Yes, we went from The Lion King to teens copulating with the devil in the space of just 3 decades. So family-friendly. That's not enough, though. The show also pushes the legitimacy of kids being traumatized into worrying about the climate crisis. Why just push one regime narrative when you can brainwash them with 2? And this isn't even the first time that a Disney-backed show has fixated on this weird obsession with teen girls getting impregnated by Beelzebub. The cable television channel FXX, owned by Disney Corporation, released the animated show Little Demon, which had the same plot. They're funneling out this demonic trash after having opposed a ban in Florida on pushing harmful, deranged gender identity politics on kids, opposing an anti-grooming bill while producing producing shows about Satan grooming and impregnating teenagers. And are we the baddies? Earlier this year, Disney lost 4 million subscribers in the space of 3 months, after having already lost 2.4 million in the last quarter of 2022. Leftist media outlets rushed to defend the company, with explainers asserting it wasn't a case of get woke, go broke, but largely because the company lost the streaming rights to the Indian Premier League cricket matches.
All right, we're going to stop it right there. So you heard basic information that we can extract from there. We'll probably just leave it at that. We're just going to keep moving. I know we're moving pretty quick this morning, but we don't have a choice here. So that was Population Collapse Good for the Planet, Wealth Advisor Professor Sarah Harper explains. And we probably could have read some more, a little deeper into it, but, it's okay. So let's just move on. All right, we'll probably just grab this last one. It says California introduces digital ID, starting with driver's license, which I believe we talked about recently. But hey, speaking of California, what was it, the earthquake and all that stuff that was going on there in Cali? Yeah. As a matter of fact, I want to grab a couple scriptures dealing with that as well. Just basically just come to mind. Not kind of pinpoint exact, but there's many scriptures dealing with destruction. But let's see what this is talking about real quick. It says, if you're tired of censorship, okay, that's nothing. It says, in a concerning move for privacy advocates, California has broadened its digital driver's license ID initiative, prompting citizens to place sensitive ID details onto their smartphones, dubbed MDL by the California DMV. This mobile driver's license can be used in contexts like airport security or verifying age for alcohol purchases. And you know what? I believe I've gone into this already. Well, it's short, so I'll read it anyways, but I believe I've already gone into this. It says, despite being pitched as a technological advancement, the pilot program, which is now open to 1.5 million participants, has its drawbacks, as all things do. It says, to obtain this digital ID, users must download the CADMV Wallet app. All right? Dealing with a lot of apps, technological world. It says, critically, this doesn't interoperate with native or decentralized wallet systems. Instead, Californians are forced to trust their sensitive information to a singular state-run app. The DMV insists that the app does not permanently store your personal data, but it still retains your phone number and encrypted photo of your DL ID card, or driver license or ID card. One must question the longevity and security of such data retention. The digital version is only accepted at a few locations, and I guess that's some little logos or whatever. It says, earlier this year, California Governor Gavin Newsom hinted at this rollout in recent reports indicating a growing number of participants. However, one can't help but wonder if the potential privacy risk and data vulnerabilities associated with this move have been thoroughly assessed. So like all things with the technological world, they keep running into, little humps and bumps in the road. But hey, these devils are going to push forward their agendas. Probably going to leave it at that. Well, that was the end of that article anyways. It says California introduces digital ID, starting with driver's license. All right. All that facial recognition, iris scanning, the orb, and all this talk about, ease moving, man. Real question is, are you seeking the Lord in these latter days? I did say we're going to grab a couple scriptures. Let's go and get those real quick so you can close it on out. We'll just use this. All right, let's get over here. The first one, I guess we'll grab this one first. All right, there we go. All right, Isaiah 30:30, a verse that I like, and I read it from time to time. All right, so dealing with all this disaster and destruction that's been going on in certain places now. It says, Isaiah 30:30 says, and the Lord Yahweh shall cause his glorious voice to be heard, and shall show the lightning down of his arm, which lightning attacks have been happening lately, with the indignation of his anger, right? The righteous anger, which is why these things are going down, judgment in the earth, and with the flame of devouring fire, right? You got Maui, and I once spoke of early on when I first came to the truth about the fire tornadoes, right? The fire nados, and lo and behold, the Lord brought one on this earth, all right? Not saying I had anything to do with it or like I've spoken into existence, but I'm just saying I mentioned that once before. I mentioned a lava tornado, a volcano erupting. You never know. The Lord swoop a mighty wind down and start picking up some lava and have that spin through your neighborhood. The Lord can do anything, man. Well, let's continue. It says, the indignation of his anger, and with the flame of a devouring fire, with scattering and tempest and hailstones, right? Mighty storms. It could be a monsoon, a hurricane, tornado, whatever the case may be. All right. But the Lord does all these things, and he says that in the scriptures, I, the Lord, do all these things. All right, let's grab our last one. All right, it says, this is Nahum 1:5 says, the mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence. Yea, the world and all that dwell therein. Who can stand before his indignation, and who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. All right, earthquakes, tempests, hailstorms, fire, whatever the case may be, it's all issue from the Lord. So Lord, will you edify? Till next time, Yahshua, I'm going to say shalom.